Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I am your host, Chris Angle. I am the author of 4 books on philosophy, one of which is The Philosophical Equations of Economics. These books are available free for viewing at thephilosophicalangle.com. If you'd like to contact us and make comment, inquire, or make suggestions, and feel free to give us an email at contact@thephilosophicalangle.com. Along with me is my colleague and co-host, Rick Samuelson. Rick graduated from Yale and has an MBA from Wharton and also from Tufts. Rick's an independent venture capitalist from the West Coast. Good to see you, Rick.
And you.
The purpose of the Philosophical Angle is to examine the nature of concepts being used in current media, and secondarily use those definitions to understand the righteousness and ethical superiority of conservative positions. This week, we're going to discuss President Trump made a speech in Tennessee on Memorial Day week. And President Trump listed many of the accomplishments of the United States and his administration so far. Among these accomplishments, he said that the United States is more respected now than in previous administrations. Well, this is a pretty interesting subject. Perhaps we should understand what is the nature of respect. How do we know that a nation is treating us with more respect? What is the essence of respect? How does one know if he's receiving respect? And luckily, you are tuned into the Philosophical Angle for a full explanation. So let's get started. Well, the nature of respect is the degree to which something is important to somebody. That is, when somebody is very important to you, you give them great respect. So if you are important to somebody else, you'll receive a great amount of respect. So let's take an example. You respect your parents because they are very important to you and to your upbringing, and for bringing yourself into life. The parents respect you, and they respect you because you're going to carry on their genetic code into the future generations, and so you are important to them as they are important to you, and thus you're respectful to them and they're respectful to you. Now, conversely, or in the opposite direction, when you pass a beggar on the street, you don't give him much respect, do you? And you do that, you don't give him much respect because he's not important to you, he's not important to the world, he doesn't produce much, so he's not important to anybody. So not too many people give him much respect. They give him a little, but not much. So let's take this out and extrapolate this into the political arena. If you are the same political party as the President of the United States, you give him great respect because he's important in extending out into the world the policies and ideology in which you believe. He is the instrument of extending your ideology into the world, which is important, and therefore you respect him. And the opposite is true too. If you're not of the same party as the President of the United States, you would not consider him as important. Look at the Democrats. Look at the progressive utopian socialist Democrats. They hate Trump. Why? Because he's not extending out into the world the same ideology as these socialist Democrats purport. Thus, he's not important to the Democratic Party. In fact, he is even hated by it. And by the way, what is the nature of hate? Hate is when there is something you consider important in a negative way, but you can't do anything about it. So, anyway, let's get back to respect. So the Democratic Party participants do not consider President Trump important in extending their ideals and their political ideas out into the world out into the American society and out internationally also. And thus, he's not respected by them. And that is an understatement, as we can see from the Daily News, how much they berate him. So, in fact, he's the opposite of important to them. He is anti-important. President Trump is deconstructing their influence and their achievements, if you can call them achievements, over the last 8 years during the Obama administration. And so they give Trump no respect. In fact, they give him anti-respect. And an anti-respectful action has the manifestation in hateful behavior. So we respect others when we consider them important in our lives. And we consider somebody important when they're producing something that is good for our lives. In our example of the parents, they produced the housing in which we live, our food, they gave us our education, they instilled in us their values, and we appreciate it all. And so we respect them because they gave us our upbringing. And they respect us because we carry their genetics. Another example is that we respect the president of companies. I mean, should we ever come in contact with one. They are substantial people who are responsible for producing all the goods and services that their companies do. And these goods and services are good for people in general. And they're good for consumers by the goods and services they present to the consumers, because it brings goodness into the lives of the consumers. And that's why consumers buy their goods from these companies. They perceive that the product is good for their lives. But why would a country give another country respect? Well, the reason is the same. One country respects another because it seems that the other country is important in the total scheme of things. The other country may be important because they are a trading partner. They may be important because they're our neighbor and we need to live in peace with our neighbor. So now we know why we are respectful. And we are respectful to those who are important to us, and those who are important to us usually produce something that is to our benefit. They produce something that is good, and good is that which brings us up away from misery. But what we don't know yet are the actual mechanics of respect. That is, we don't know yet what are the actual degrees of respect. Well, the way that we show others that we are important to us is by the signs of cooperation. And these signs of cooperation can range anywhere from a smile, which is an indication of non-aggression, or polite speech, a handshake, and so on and so forth. But all these indicate a will to cooperate. So now, to the ultimate question, which is where we began, which we brought forth at the beginning of this discussion, which is why would countries give America greater respect during this administration and during the Trump presidency? So is the United States receiving more respect from the international community now? Looking back at the events over the last year, it would certainly seem so. There have been successful meetings in the Middle East, in France, and China, and Japan, and now possibly even with North Korea. Each of these regions and countries have given signs of further and greater cooperation, which are signs of respect. And why would that be? It is because greater good will come to these countries if they do so. That is, these countries recognize that to cooperate with the United States will bring greater benefit and goodness to their countries. This greater goodness consists of opportunities in free trade, defense agreements, security. They realize this because they realize they are dealing with the United States, with a government that is willing and able to carry through on these opportunities of free trade, of defense and security. And as such, President Trump denotes this in his speech. So let's ask Rick whether he thinks the United States is progressing in the world arena of respect. Rick, what do you think?
Well, I think you get one narrative from the global press and leaders of the UN and the European Union who are dedicated to their status and think that some sort of kumbaya approach to world affairs will lead to stability and less war, not more. You don't have to look too far to see daily instances of that not being the case. The prior administration pretended that it was not surrounded by at least two major hostile powers in the form of Russia and China. Iran's hostile, but they don't have anything like the resources of China or Russia. And I think the big change, one of the big changes in this administration, is to call these hostile actors out. Because if you don't oppose aggression, I mean, we've seen this so many times, leading up to World War II, leading up to World War I. It's a lesson that continues to be learned many, many times. The fact that hostile actors, whether they're small ones like North Korea or Iran or large ones, are willing to at least stall in their aggressive behavior and possibly even consider rolling it back is the measure of respect. There are no guarantees that an agreement with North Korea will last or that it'll be successful and so on and so forth. But the fact that they are willing to even discuss the subject is a major step forward. Similarly, the confrontation between China and the United States over the next 10 years, the military confrontation, which of course has many other ramifications in trade and elsewhere, is going to be extremely severe because it's clear that in the absence of containment, China will be building bases. They're already have bases 500 miles offshore. All right. Within sight of other Southeast Asian countries. That is prima facie a hostile act. And they are preparing to put troops, in addition to missiles, in addition to landing strips, in addition to all kinds of monitoring equipment, which is done, they're planning to put troops on these islands. So there's no doubt that the sole purpose of this is to have control over one of the most important trade routes in the world, and to be able to control access to it. No one would do it for any other reason. And so I think you may see Trump forced into a position where he has to back, say, Taiwan very explicitly over China. It remains to be seen. But this is hardball. This is not EU, let's all be happy together and have another meeting. These are hardball tactics with real bullets, which the EU does not have. So the EU, as I've said before, is irrelevant in world affairs.
Right. So if you were president, what would you do for the China Sea? How would you get them
Well,
to stand down?
I'd keep sending the same message, and I would send patrols right through in amongst their islands, and challenge them. If they want to attack the U.S. Navy, those are high stakes, because those are, by international agreement, freely navigable waters.
And what happens if they continue to build their little islands and fortify them with the military?
I think there will come a time when they have to be opposed.
Exactly.
Directly. And it's coming. It's not that far off.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, so many bases have been built in such a far-flung fashion that we're coming from behind on this. It never should have gotten this far, but
that's right.
They've captured the South China Sea in terms of controlling it. The next logical objective would be the East Asian Sea.
Let me ask you about the upcoming meeting with North Korea. And
I think China's pulling the strings there entirely, and North Korea is a pawn in all of this, and so China's going to play to its advantage. I think Trump is smart enough to know that China's pulling the strings, and that the bigger game here is how the United States and China achieve a stalemate. Right now, they don't have a stalemate. Right now, China is winning. Right? Make no mistake about that. China is winning. China is building the bases and expanding its influence. The United States is receding, and has been receding for many years, I might add.
Should President Trump demand anything of North Korea in his upcoming summit?
Well, I think the end game has to be to denuclearize the peninsula.
And how about the Gulag system that's prevalent in the? It's really just a system of slavery. Can he demand its deconstruction?
China would have to agree, and China won't allow a buffer state like that to collapse into the control of South Korea or the United States, so they will maintain that buffer state. They might prop them up a bit more, give them a bit more food, a bit more oil, but I can't see. China will demand something in return if the peninsula is denuclearized. So that's the essence of the negotiation here.
Very
won't
interesting.
Give that away for free.
Very interesting. Exactly. They'll want something in return.
Extremely hostile power.
It is. And the United States has to come to recognize that. Rick, thanks for joining.
You might even see the Philippines resuscitate Subic Bay, or Clark Airfield's destroyed now, but that was a $6 billion naval station. It was the biggest one we had in the Pacific.
That's right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. We don't have it anymore. We gave it away. Incredible.
Right. Well, thanks, Rick, for joining us, and thank everybody for viewing this current episode of The Philosophical Angle. See you next week.
Thank you.